Hi, fam. I wanted to do a quick bio because I'll be uploading some more videos here, and I thought I ought to have a place to share about where I come from and why I'm doing this and where I'm at today. A little bit about my journey before the church and after and now. My name is Charlie Bingham. I grew up in North New Jersey, the child of a single mom and, well, divorced parents, we'll put it that way. My family was not religious. I would say, if anything, anti religious. My mom's parents were atheistic. It was a very permissive environment in the sense of, you know, humans should make their own decisions. We didn't have any kind of religious or spiritual guidance at all. This led to probably more exploration at a very early age than maybe is the norm. I grew up thinking that religious people were definitely the minority, probably 10%, if that, of people were religious. And this is by the time I was 15, I still thought this because I had so little exposure. I didn't know how religious our country was. I just thought that religion was for people that were not educated and, you know, were just sort of could tolerate, you know, having a mythology at the core of their life. Um, my family on both sides, my mother and father's side, were kind of Ivy League types, so I thought that they were the more informed, and they were conscientious, good people, so I didn't ever really question it. When I was 15 or 16, I would say I hit a emotional or psychological wall. I thought that the universe was simply speaking, an accident. And I didn't really want to be around for any of that. So I kind of was ready to check out. And that was the time that I had my first spiritual experience, where I think it today. I don't think it was another person. I think it was my own spirit self, and I've come to understand a lot more about that by studying the principle that we have two selves, and they are obviously bound to each other, but they are also separate from each other, and we can see and hear our spirit self. And it's vitally important that we have that experience, and that we live uh, increasingly conscious of the fact that we have a spirit self, which is a discrete projection of God with the same body, face, voice, of our physical body, but a separate body. And I'll talk a lot about that on this channel. So my first encounter, I would say, with my spirit self was around 15, and that kicked off an explosive awareness of the spirit world at large. My dream life became very rich. I saw particularly and experienced situations in hell, what hell is like. And I came to understand that, you know, the world that we've known through our physical senses and our own reasoning based on those data streams is not the primary world. The primary world is a fully developed and even more true and honest representation of what really exists, including what is in the heart of people, including the depths of our fear and the kind of control systems that we live under, and the ways that we try to tolerate evil, the defenses that we have, and the kind of management systems and subroutines we all have to live in this evil system, in the evil world, in the evil spiritual environment that we have. I decided at that point, I kind of had a new lease on life. I studied I left high school a year early, and I applied to college abroad, and I got in. So I went over to live in Paris for a year when I was 16, studying philosophy, Western philosophy, and I learned that I started to also study about the history of religion, and that became my major. That's what my degree is in now, world religions. What I discovered is that I never had any formal religious, you know, training or exposure. So I'm not a churchgoer, still not a churchgoer today. But I um, learned instead through reading lots of books and working in bookstores that religions were culminating in some kind of way into a kind of a global awareness, that religions were basically leading people, and also that the spirit world or heaven or people generally, whether they're atheist or evil or whatever, that we're all being led to the same place, which is an awareness of our divinity and our the great, amazing power that we have to just be of meaningful service and joy and love and fun, and that the systems that prevent that are in our control, and we can dismantle them and we can move past it. So I studied Buddhism under Robert Thurman, who was the first American disciple of the Dalai Lama and taught at Amherst College, which is an Ivy League school in Massachusetts. Studied with him for 2 years, and then I also studied under Richard Rubinstein, who is a scholar of Jewish history and Judaism generally. I had good teachers. I liked to study. I did very well in school. But my explorations were, while those were very important to me, kind of maybe some sort of cornerstone, but I was much more interested in not the old religions, but the new ones, because there are issues with the old religions, particularly in that they came about at a time when our intellectual understandings were lower, and they are silent in large degree on the topic of evil and the topic of God's response to evil. So I had burning questions. I didn't see that that there was theology that could be just universally accepted. There were just logical fallacies here and there. But I did feel strongly that there was something happening, and that there was a kind of a cusp of the movement that humanity was in, around I guess we're in the 80s now. I was starting to have dreams about a group of people that were from all over the world studying some special book, and I just desperately wanted to meet these people, and I wanted desperately to be on the cutting edge of some kind of spiritual but practical movement. And I think now, looking back, probably my dreams and my experiences came in part due to the fact that my father had joined our church when I was 6 years old after my parents divorced. And he hung around, doing activities with our church for a year or two. Heard the whole principle. So my ancestors, the ones that were capable of, affecting me or being around me, were, made sure that I found this movement. And my meeting with my spiritual parent happened through circumstances that just could not have been an accident, and were part of a really incredible story just of what was happening that day, but also what had been happening in the weeks previous. Um, but I think we all have incredible stories, and mine is just one of them, and I won't go into it now. But when I met my spiritual parent, my spiritual world exploded, and I felt immediately, oh, I don't have my good microphone in. I wonder if I can plug it in right now. Pause for a minute. Anyhow, I joined through CARP in San Francisco and went straight into Dr. Sook's program for the exchange program between the former Soviet bloc and the United States. And then I went over to do mission work in Russia, witnessing in different countries. I was a center leader in a couple cities for a little bit of time. Was blessed there, matched to a Russian woman, Sasha Yanitskaya, who some of you probably know. And consequently, all of my, I guess you could say, all of my indemnity content or all of my unresolved inner troubles came to the front. And I was right at that time, Chongpyong had started, and I was advised to go there. It was 1995. Still tense and freezing cold and all of that. Another one of my leaders kind of poo-pooed it, and I ended up heading back to the States and tried to kind of recover my spiritual life, but was unable to. And I ended up thinking, okay, I've got a big problem I need to solve, and I don't want to be a burden. And everybody here is trying to move in one direction, and I'm just not able to keep up. So I made a decision to go and explore the source of my trouble, and I basically threw caution to the wind and allowed myself to explore mainly what was gay feelings, which I had had since I was a kid, and I never really believed in them or thought it was an appropriate lifestyle. But nevertheless, I had that sort of aching need, and it was a very dysfunctional sort of obsession, I would say, with it. And so I went to explore, and I did all the things, and I just found that the more I fought it, the harder it was to stop. And I just thought, okay, I'm gonna go into it, and I'm gonna try to find out what's at the heart of this attraction, and why. What is it that I'm seeing in other men that I seem to it seems to be so important to me. And I found myself cycling into just unmanageable situations that were, involving drugs and alcohol, but also more importantly, obsession with people. Like I fell hard for certain people that were just, mentally ill, and it was crazy. And it kind of came and went. It was in waves, I guess you could say. And my wife tried to. She came to the States, and we went on some workshops and weekends and therapy and group meetings, and tried to kind of have support. And we were kind of addressing it as like an addiction, or as a compulsion, or trying to find ways to mediate behaviors and things like that. But I felt, I guess, incapable of really committing to those processes, but also kind of had a sense that I needed to see it right up close, and really examine it and really understand it through experience. So I did have a couple of lovers, and I had lots of casual things, one-offs. Um, and just really trying to get to the heart of like what is it like I'm a man, why do I think of other men that way? It doesn't make sense to me. As a kid, I always thought I'd outgrow it. Like, when I become a man, I'll won't really want that. But as a kid, from age 6, I was already sexually aware and I guess orgasmic. So I had adult men around me that um, you know I would say um, they weren't participating in sexual activity with me, but they were kind of exhibitionistic, I guess. So I just felt like there was something there that I wanted, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. And, the closer I got to it, the kind of slipperier it got. But more and more, since I knew the principle and I had already um, done mission work for quite some time and worked on that part of myself, I never lost faith, or it wasn't ever a question of that. It was more just, what's at the heart of my interest. This sort of disordered sexuality. Why? And because I wanted to have that awareness that would enable me to say, okay, I know what that is, and I know that it is not good for me, and um, I no longer want it. I wanted to no longer want it, but I wasn't. I never really got to that state. There were periods of time when I just almost like it wasn't even a part of me, and then those would just last, 3 months tops. In 2016, Damon came to America, and at that time, I was finishing my degree at Bridgeport University, and I went to her program, and I had a massive spiritual awakening, or some kind of shift happened. Some chains were cut or something. It was one of those new beginning type workshops, and I'll tell you that we were in a stadium, probably 400 people in there. Um, we finished the final ceremony. It was a 2-day program. Finished the final ceremony. I stood up. I guess everybody was standing at that point. And there was like some song playing, and it was like, okay, you've been forgiven, everything's done, congratulations. And I just started weeping and weeping, and I felt my ancestors right there, and it was like every spirit around me was bawling. And then I just was feeling water just pouring all over my body. Um, I thought it was like maybe my tears, but I was getting soaking wet just standing there in the theater. And I looked up, and one of the pipes had burst right over directly over my head. And it's funny because I had changed seats, like I was in the same place in the whole day, but just right before this one, I changed seats. And so it was incredible. My whole seat was soaked, and I was soaked, but it was just me. There was people on both sides of me. They weren't wet. um, I went home and sold my car, quit my job, um, and I flew to Korea. And within 6 months, my blessing was restored. I had flown to Russia. I found my ex wife, and we brought her to Korea, and got blessed again, and had a child. And we lived there. We decided we really loved Daemonim's thing. We loved Chungpyong, and I felt that, in support of my marriage, I wanted to have the best chance. So I wanted to have my child born there, and I wanted to just be there as long as I could. So we stayed almost 9 years, more than 9 years. Um, and then we came to Florida about 10 years ago. And while I continued to struggle with my sexual problem, it was not at all to the degree of before I went to Chungpyong. And but it has been still an issue, an ongoing issue. So I continued to try different things, different groups, different ways of looking at the problem. And I would say that this year, very recently, even this month, a lot of things came to a head for me. And it has had to do with a kind of vigorous self honesty. And so I have been longing to um, kind of, I guess, experience some of the things that I've been experiencing this past month. And I have started a couple YouTube channels over it because it's provided like a lasting change in my life, and just it's wonderful. I love it. But I could not have come here, of course, without True Parents and without the principal. Um, so while my other channels are more focused on people generally, um, I am about to start one for the so-called SSA community, people with same-sex attraction or unwanted same-sex attraction. I don't think everybody, I've been in a lot of these groups, and I don't think that everyone's the same. But there are some I think who could benefit from what I've learned and the practices that I do right now to kind of excavate those problematic kind of sub routines and so forth. So I know a lot of people in our movement have benefited from things like parts work and inner family systems. I think that is an incredible way to really experience intimacy within yourself. And so my main channel called Primal Stream, is about something I call primal encounter, and it has to do with our inner parts coming together and what that feels like, and how it is a massively transformative experience, and how it is um, just, I think, helpful for all people. But here on this channel, I want to talk more about how it relates to Father's words, how it relates to the world that we know we're coming into, how it relates to becoming the people that God made us to be, like just the normal, natural human being. How is it? How do they function? And this whole concept of the first blessing, that we have two selves that need to come together, and that joining of the two selves is a very intimate encounter. It is not just a functional thing of like obeying my conscience all day long. And no, it's where we meet God within our own mind. And I have long wanted to, bring God to my, lower parts, we'll say, meaning like, frightened inner child, or this type of thing, or my inner woman, even. Um, and so I am excited to share with you. I wanted to tell the story of my sexual journey because it is the reason that I felt it is, critically important that I do the work to make my life and my family's life manageable. But what I discovered is that that same work is enabling me to actually believe in my own completion as a person. So that is not something I've ever been able to say or even think about, that I could become completed as a person, that I could fulfill the first blessing as a person. I know there's a lot of thoughts about that, a lot of feelings, maybe about whether that is or is not possible. But I can definitely say that from what I've experienced, the love that I have felt inside my own body, um, because of certain steps that I've taken to remediate the isolation, that the kind of alienation. We have like an alienated physical self, and we have an alienated spirit self, and they desperately want to meet. Nothing will stop them from meeting. They must meet. It's just a matter of like, how do I enable that to happen? And so a lot of it comes down to rigorous honesty, and comes down to, I guess, a willingness to tell the truth about ourselves, and to invite God into that conversation, and also inviting, some of our lower parts or our segmented selves, uh, which we might experience in our daily lives as maybe outbursts of anger or serious jealousy or anxiety or depression or craving substances, or there are external manifestations, but there is an internal part to all of that, which I thought for most of my life was out of reach. I did not think that I could ever bring those parts into the light, and nor could I experience the feeling of love, which goes beyond words. We can't really say it well. It's one of those things, like, you hear about it all the time. You know it when you feel it, but this is something that is very personal and very spiritual, in the sense that it's coming from another dimension, in a sense, or I don't know how to put it. It's coming from the core of the universe. It's coming from, the basis of the universe. It's coming from God, who lives as the center of our spirit self. So we can trust our spirit self, and we can enable that relationship to take place. So that is what this channel will be about. I might delve into topics that involve church history and church culture, and um, kind of some patterns that I see on we are, how we're developing and growing as a movement. But for the most part, I think what I have to say is more along the lines of, what is our responsibility? We have been, in some regards, very outer focused, on how we appear to society, or who we align with, or which faction, or you know which work is most important. And we kind of tend to speak to one another in those terms. And whereas for me, I would say the door that has been opened by true parents is a door of our own mind. It's the door of our own mind, and we have to open that door, and we have to walk through that door. And when you walk through that door, it's not that you're meeting true parents, or not that you're meeting Jesus. You're meeting yourself, and that's the key to becoming perfected, and the key to the kingdom of heaven, if we're ever going to have one. We have to know who we are, and we have to come to terms with all of our parts. So everybody knows that we can use psychology or use religion to discover our responsibility and then fulfill it. But we can also use religion and psychology to obscure our responsibility and to avoid its fulfillment. And so, you've probably come to notice that, there are quite healthy people in the world operating today, providential people who are having great effect and helping lots of people get free. And then we have many people in our movement who seem to be maybe less impactful, or less seemingly self-aware, or less kind of operating with less than a full deck in some cases. um, People that we might feel are not well explored. They don't maybe know themselves that well, but it's not that I know, or that I am judging them. It's just, um, I want to stand for everyone. Anyone who has come into our church, or done the blessing, or is related in any way to our church. I want to stand for them. I don't think that anybody is beyond hope or beyond help, or I don't believe that anybody, we need to sit around judiciating on other people's spiritual lives. It's not important. The only thing that I mention it for is for the person who might feel like, oh, I'm just going to throw all of it away because so and so is a toxic person, or so and so didn't understand me. The work that I'm talking about is um, it's outside of any of that. It's not about how your parents treated you. It's not about who your ancestors are. It's not about church leadership. It's not about any of that. Um, the work that I want to talk about and the work that I think needs to be done, um, and the work that I think is, we all could be doing a little more talking about is this process of self awareness. Like the goal of the training center on all the published material was, searching for the true self. When we find our true self, so many problems go away. We don't care what people think anymore. We don't need to follow or imitate anyone. We don't need to be defended against anyone. It's why I can come here and just do this video. I no longer am worried or concerned like someone's gonna, what they're gonna think about me. I can't. I don't. It's not. It's just not logically important anymore. It's not that I hate people and I don't care what they think. It's that it has no bearing on whether I am happy or not happy, whether I succeed or not in becoming who I truly am. So, church affiliation or not, or, all of that, whatever. It's just whatever. It's not, doesn't make a difference. So, but I would say that, if we're gonna, find, a community or a teaching that, is truly helpful, I would say, stay with this one. Stay with this one. This is a good one. Father is a good human being and a good father and a good leader and a good friend. So I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you, and I hope I got to the points I wanted to make. We'll see you on the next one.